The Iron Man nodded. But his answer was to signal to the engineers. Once more, they poured oil into the trough under the grid. Once more, they lit it. Once more, the flames roared up and the black smoke billowed up into the clear blue. And once more, the Iron Man stretched himself out on the grid of the raging furnace. The space-bagged angel dragon watched in horror. He knew what this meant for him. He would have to go once more into the sun's flames. And now the Iron Man's hair and toes and elbow were red hot. He lay back in the flames, smiling up at the dragon. And his whole body was becoming red hot, then orange, and finally white, like the blazing wire inside an electric bulb. At this point, the Iron Man was terribly afraid. For what would happen if the flame went on getting fiercer and fiercer? He would melt. He would melt and drip into the flames like so much treacle, and that would be the end of him. So even though he grinned up at the dragon as though he were enjoying the flames, he was not enjoying them at all, and he was very, very frightened. Even the engineers, who were hiding behind thick asbestos screens over a mile away along the beach, felt the hair singeing on their heads. And they too thought it was the end of the Iron Man. Perhaps they poured in just a bit too much fuel oil. But at that very moment, and the very second that the edge of the Iron Man's ear started to melt, the fuel was used up and the flames died. The engineers came running down the beach. They saw the red-hot Iron Man getting off his fearful bed, and they saw him moving to and fro on the sand, cooling off. At last, the Iron Man looked up at the dragon. He could hardly speak after his ordeal in the flames. Instead, he just pointed at the sun and jabbed his finger as he gazed up at the monster. "That's twice," he managed to say. "Now, it's your turn." The monster did not laugh. He set off, up from the earth, beating his colossal wings, writhing his long, ponderous body up into the sky towards the sun. Now it was his turn, and he did not laugh. Last time had been too dreadful. But he went. He couldn't let the Iron Man win. He couldn't let the Iron Man of the earth beat him in this terrible contest. And so all the telescopes and cameras of the world watched him flying into the sun. They saw him land among the flames as before. As before, they saw his great ragged shape like an ink blot sprawled over the center of the sun. They saw him begin to glow red, then orange. And at last they could no longer see him. He and the sun were one blinding whiteness. He had done it again. But was the sun burning him up? Had he melted in the sun? Where was he? Oh, no, here he was, Here he came, slowly, slowly down through space, much more slowly than before. His white, hot, flying body cooled slowly to red as he came, and as he grew larger, coming nearer, he finally became once more black, and the great black shape flagged its way down through space until, bump, heavier than ever, he landed on Australia. This time the bump was so heavy it knocked down certain skyscrapers, sent tidal waves sleeping into harbours, and threw herds of cows onto their backs. All over the world, anybody who happened to be riding a bicycle at that moment instantly fell off. The space-bat angel dragon landed so ponderously because he was exhausted. And now he was a very changed monster. The fires of the sun had worked on him in a way that was awful to see. His wings were only rags of what they had been. His skin was crisped, and all his fatness had been changed by the fires of the sun into precious stones, jewels, emeralds, rubies, turquoises, and substances that had never been found on earth. And when he landed with such a jolt, these loads of precious gems burst through the holes, scorched in his skin, and scattered down onto the Australian desert beach. But the Iron Man could not allow himself to pity the space bat angel dragon. He signalled to the engineers. "Round 3, he shouted, and the engineers began to pour in the oil. But what was this? An enormous whoofing sound, a booming, wheezing, sneezing sound. The space bat angel dragon was weeping. If the Iron Man got to his furnace again, it would mean that he, the monster, would have to take another roasting in the sun, and he could not stand another. "Enough! Enough! Enough!" he roared. "No, no," replied the Iron Man. "I feel like going on. We've only had 2 each." "It's enough," cried the dragon. "It's too much. I can't stand another. The fires of the sun are too terrible for me. I submit." "Then I've won," shouted the Iron Man, "because I'm quite ready to roast myself red hot again, if you daren't. Then I've won." "Yes, you've won. Yes, you've won. And I am your slave," cried the space bat angel dragon. "I'll do anything you like, but not the sun again." And he plunged his chin into the Pacific to cool it. "Very well," said the Iron Man. "From now on you are the slave of the earth. What can you do?" "Alas," said the space bat angel dragon, "I am useless, utterly useless. All we do in space is fly or make music." "Make music?" asked the Iron Man. "How? What sort of music?" "Haven't you heard of the music of the spheres?" asked the dragon. "It's the music that space makes to itself. All the spirits inside all the stars are singing. I'm a star spirit. I sing too. The music of the spheres is what makes space so peaceful." "Then whatever made you want to eat up the earth?" asked the Iron Man. "If you're all so peaceful up there, how did you get such greedy and cruel ideas?" The dragon was silent for a long time. And last he said, "It just came over me. I don't know why. It just came over me, listening to the battling shouts and the war cries of the earth. I got excited. I wanted to join in." "Well, you can sing for us instead," said the Iron Man. "It's a long time since anybody here on Earth heard the music of the spheres. It might do us all good." And so it was fixed. The space bat angel dragon was to send his star back into the constellation of Orion, and he was to live inside the moon. And every night he was fly around the earth, through the heavens, singing. So his fearful shape, slowly swimming through the night sky, didn't frighten people, because it was dark and he couldn't be seen. But the whole world could hear him. The strange, soft music that seemed to fill the whole of space, a deep, weird singing, like millions of voices singing together. Meanwhile, the Iron Man was the Earth's hero. He went back to his scrapyard. But now everybody in the world sent him a present. Some only sent him a nail. Some sent him an old car. One rich man even sent him an ocean liner. He sprawled there in his yard, chewing away, with his one ear slightly drooped where the white heat of that last roasting had slightly melted it. As he chewed, he hummed in harmony to the singing of this tremendous slave in heaven. And the space bat angel's singing had the most unexpected effect. Suddenly, the world became wonderfully peaceful. The singing got inside everybody and made them as peaceful as starry space, and blissfully above all their earlier little squabbles. The strange, soft, eerie space music began to alter all the people of the world. They stopped making weapons. The countries began to think how they could live pleasantly alongside each other, rather than how to get rid of each other. All they wanted to do was to have peace, to enjoy this strange, wild, blissful music from the giant singer in space.